Today I'm going to be talking about Kennywood and how plus size or bigger people friendly the park is. Kennywood's a park I've been to quite a few times. It's a really nice park. I really like the park. It's very family friendly, but still has, thrill rides as well. It's clean and well kept. And basically in this video, I'm just going to go through every ride that they have, starting with the roller coasters and working my way down, and just talk about, maybe the restraint systems and how bigger people friendly the ride may be if you're a bigger person like me. Um, Basically, where you may have trouble, which rides may give you trouble, which rides should be no problem, and just to give you some info on me, because I'm going to use my dimensions, how I fit a lot of times to give a rough idea of how you may fit. Again, everybody's body is built a little different, so this is just a rough estimate, rough guide, just to try to help you, but it may be a little bit different for you. What I fit in, you maybe I will not too, and vice versa. So, the last time I visited Kennywood, I would have been around 285 pounds. I am 5'6", and I carry most of my weight in my stomach. Excuse me. In my stomach. My hips are pretty wide, and I have bigger thighs. I don't really have a big butt, and I don't really have a big chest area. Most of my biggest problem area tends to be my stomach more than anything, but the thighs can sometimes get in the way as well. Um, so I haven't been here since 2017. So if a ride was added after 2017, I can't really give you my personal perspective on that ride. Um, but for the rest of the rides, yeah, I'll definitely talk about them, give you a good idea if you're planning your trip to Kennywood. And if you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to me. I have other plus size park videos already on my channel, such as Hershey Park. I have Kings Island, Cedar Point, and some others as well. And if you have a suggestion or any questions, just feel free to comment, and I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. And also, I fluctuate between a size 22 and 24 depending on the brand as well, in case that helps too. But let's go ahead and get started and talk about the roller coasters at Kennywood. I also wanted to note that overall Kennywood is one of the most plus size friendly parks out there. And I've said this before, and I will continue to say it no matter which theme park you go to. I feel like there's going to be something for everybody to ride. So don't fear, don't worry, and hopefully this video and my other videos will help you as well. But this is Phantom's Revenge at Kennywood. Phantom's Revenge is it's a very accommodating coaster for pretty much everybody. Unless you are really exceptionally large, like in your gut, you should be able to ride Still Phantom just fine. The main thing to worry about is the seatbelt, but the seatbelt's really long. But again, it's a super accommodating ride. Really shouldn't be many issues at all. So I say you should be able to ride it. This is Exterminator. And this ride is an indoor, like, spinning coaster. It's kind of similar to like a Wild Mouse type coaster. This coaster is very accommodating as well. Again, unless you are really exceptionally large, or I don't think you will have an issue on this ride. I didn't have a problem on this ride, neither did I on Phantom's Revenge. I mean, if you know, think you may have an issue on any ride, you can always go to the exit and ask a rider or ask a crew member what they think, or try to get on and sit before you actually ride. If they're not too busy that day, they should do that. If you do have a fear or concern about fitting, but here's a closer picture showing the restraints. Again, unless you were, again, really big, exceptionally, I don't think you'll have an issue on Exterminator. Next up is the oldest coaster in the park, Jackrabbit. And I picked out this photo especially for Jackrabbit to show a couple things about it. If you can tell, these people are restrained by a seatbelt. The seatbelt is really long. But the problem, there is a bar right by there that I guess you can like kind of hold on to and whatnot. And you basically have to squeeze between like the seat and the bar to get in, which may present a challenge if you're a bigger person. I know I was like, I ain't fitting. So, but to overcome that, if you're flexible enough, just literally like step over the side of the car and then step on the seat, then step down. That's what I do. And if you could have somebody help you, that definitely makes it easier as well. And the seatbelt is really long. However, people that ride wooden coasters know that sometimes the seats can be a little bit narrow if you have like two people there, especially if you're both bigger people. And while this is a really long seatbelt, if you will note in the picture, this seatbelt is going over both riders. It is very long, very accommodating, but if you have any doubt in your mind, especially if you're riding with somebody else who is bigger, you can ask to ride separately. I would do that too for my peace of mind, just to make sure I fit. But other than that, Jackrabbit is going to be just fine to ride. Next, I'm going to talk about two wooden coasters, Thunderbolt and Racer. They are both pretty accommodating for bigger riders. They do have a lap bar that's going to come down, unlike Jackrabbit. And there's a seatbelt. Seatbelt's really long. The lap bar is pretty accommodating. I don't foresee many people having an issue. The only issue you may have is if you have a really big gut. Maybe you could push into it or cause some issues. And if you're riding with somebody and you're both bigger, you could possibly be squished with these rides as well. But for the most part, I don't think many people are going to have issues. This is Lil Phantom. Yes, it is a kiddie coaster. Yes, it's going to be not accommodating. It's going to be very tight if you do get on it. It is lap bar based, so if you do have a bigger chest area but not really bigger elsewhere, and you want to ride with your kid, probably would be fine. But it's going to be tight because it is a kiddie coaster and it's designed more for kids, but adults are allowed to ride. But it's probably better for like smaller adults to ride. Alright, this ride here is Skyrocket. And I'm going to be honest with you right now. This ride is going to be the hardest coaster to get on, with maybe the exception of Steel Curtain, because I don't really know about Steel Curtain that much. But as you can see here, I tried to get a couple pictures that are showing the seat designs. For one, they're kind of curved back. So sometimes I know I have problems where I can't get my butt to scoot all the way back because I have bigger hips. If you can't get the scoot all the way back, you're going to have a harder time getting this restraint closed. Special places to put the thighs. Have big thighs. If you do too, it's squishy. And then you got to pull the restraint down as well. Granted, it is only a lap restraint, not an over-shoulder restraint, so it can be more difficult. However, it's weird because I've actually been able to ride this ride, but it's been like extremely tight. The ride was still enjoyable, but it was pushing it like to the point of where you're like, I'm miserable. I hurt, you know. So if you have a bigger hips, bigger thighs, possibly bigger gut that could get in the way, you're going to have a trouble with this ride. Mainly if you have a big butt, hips, or thighs. That's going to be your main issue fitting on this one. And it can be very tough to fit on. Alright, as I mentioned before, I have not been on Steel Curtain because I have not been to Kennywood since 2017. Therefore, I can't really tell you for sure, but you can tell a lot. I can tell a lot by previous experiences and by judging just looking at a seat. And here's what the seats on Steel Curtain are going to look like. Alright, so they're a lot like Skyrocket that I just talked about. You can kind of tell that the hips dip down. There's going to be thigh dividers. You're going to pull the lap bar towards you. The big difference between the two is this actually has like shin bars, or they go against your legs here, if you can see that on the Steel Curtain. I keep wanting to call it Steel Phantom, sorry. Steel Curtain. And if you have really big lower legs, it looks like your legs may not fit in that bar. And again, if you have bigger butt, hips, or thighs, possibly a stomach, but I don't really think I think the main issue is going to be like your hips, butt, and thighs. You're going to have an issue. Same with Skyrocket. It's going to be a problem. And as I said, I got on Skyrocket, and then one time I wasn't able to get on Skyrocket, but it's not a really comfortable ride. I mean, it's doable. But once you get on the ride, it kind of like your body moves, it kind of helps, but sometimes it can be hard to scoot all the way back in the seat. So again, that is the restraint system. That is what it looks like. You can kind of use your own judgment to determine whether or not you think you can ride. But I really do believe it's going to cause difficulty for bigger riders. Now we're going into the thrill rides, done with coasters. This is Aero 360, which, as you can tell, over the shoulder restraint. The seat, I actually found that it was kind of narrow, but not as narrow as you'd expect. However, I have a big stomach, and it has to latch at a certain point, like come down so far for it to engage in the safety restraint. And unfortunately, I was pretty close, but it didn't engage. I wasn't really able to ride Aero 360 here. If you don't have a big stomach or a bigger chest area, you may not have as many issues. Even my like thighs and butt, I don't feel like they weren't really the issue here because it's an over the shoulder restraint. It's more going to have to do with your chest and stomach area. But if you're smaller than me, I definitely try it because I came pretty close. But again, if you do have a bigger stomach or chest, it will cause some issues with this ride. This is Black Widow, which is basically a giant frisbee. You may have seen them at other parks. If you've rode one of them, you should be able to ride this one. They're all pretty much essentially very similar. This one has an over-the-shoulder restraint as well. It's going to come down, and I fit fine. I have to have the ride operators give me a push, and they usually will do that. They're really good about that. But once they give me that push, I'm fine. Again, it's over the shoulder restraint. If you have a big chest or big stomach, you may have some difficulty with this ride. This is Swing Shot. Between like Black Widow, which I just named, in this one, Black Widow is definitely the easier one to get on. This one, I've never had any luck getting on it. I come closer in Aero 360, honestly. The thing of it is it's a this restraint here that has to actually buckle to a seatbelt. And if you have, bigger gut, especially, gosh, I had so much trouble. It wasn't really coming that close enough for me to get it. Also may have a problem because these seats to me were pretty narrow. you have a bigger hips too, possibly bigger thighs, but if you're more big on just your chest area and not the bottom, then you shouldn't have an issue at all on this one. But other than that, yeah, not really that plus size friendly. This is Cosmic Chaos, which it may look like, oh, I'm gonna have trouble on this one too. This one's not as bad actually. It's I think it's a lot how the seats are designed on this one too, and I feel like the restraints are a little bit looser. This one I fit with not a lot of difficulty. If you get much bigger than me, you're gonna have more problems, maybe not fit. But for the most part, this one actually, surprisingly, um, was fine. This is Wave Swinger. It is, it's the traditional swing ride. Nothing different about this swings versus other swings. Um, if you can fit in one, you can fit in this one, and vice versa. Sometimes the seat, if you're really big, or the seats can be a little bit small. And the other thing is some of the swing rides have a weight limit. I'm not sure about, I can't remember if this one does or not. And I couldn't find any info about weight limits on this ride. So if you're interested in riding it, just make sure you look and see if there is a weight limit on the signs outside the rides before you ride it. So next I'm going to be talking about some general rides here at Kennywood that I think most everybody should be able to fit in, unless you have especially extreme proportions. All these rides I fit in just fine. Maybe if you have like a really large stomach, maybe some of the lap bars may not come in on you for the rides here listed that do have lap bars. But for the most part, the following rides are pretty much going to be accessible for us bigger people. And again, just to give you another reference on my personal stats, I was 285, 5'6". Most of my weight is carried in my stomach. Of course, everybody's body's a little bit different, but for the most part, I think most people are going to be okay on these rides. These rides that should be pretty accommodating for everybody are Noah's Ark, the Whip, the Byron Curve, Music Express, Pirate, Volcano, the 4D Theater, the Grand Prix, the Paratrooper, the Ghostwood Estate, Garfield's Nightmare, Paddle Boats, Raging Rapids, Pittsburgh Plunge, Kangaroo, the Merry-Go-Round, the Turtle, and Journey with Thomas. Alright guys, so now I'm going to focus more on the kids rides, kids section area of the park. I already talked about the kid roller coaster, but now I'm going to talk about all the other kids rides here. This here is called Cranky's Drop Tower, which adults can ride. However, if you can see here by the restraint, there is a seatbelt and an over-the-shoulder restraint. And the problem with this is if you have a bigger chest or a bigger stomach, your seatbelt may not end up reaching the restraint, and therefore you can't ride. It's going to be snug for bigger people, unless possibly you don't really have the bigger upper dimensions or the bigger dimensions in your stomach. But other than that, it's going to be a pretty tough ride, and if you have wide hips even, because the seats are pretty narrow. This is Auto Race at Kennywood here. Adults can ride. They have to ride in the back. It's pretty accommodating if just one adult is riding in the back. The issue I found to be is leg room. Like, it's kind of smushy when it comes to terms of leg room. But other than that, most people should be okay. There's a couple rides here at Kennywood that have a height restriction. You have to be between 36 and 48 inches tall, so that automatically disqualifies us bigger people from riding. It's Whirlwind and Orbiter. These next rides, us bigger people can't ride either. That is because there is a height restriction between 36 inches and 42 inches, or I'm sorry, 52 inches tall maximum to ride. These rides are the Kinney Carousel, the Wacky Wheel, and the Whippersnapper. These next rides, you have to be between 36 inches and 56 inches tall to ride. So I guess technically, if you're a bigger person but really short, you could technically ride it. But these rides are more designed for kids, not adults. And those rides are the Elephant Parade, the Red Baron, and the Still City Choppers. This here is called Herald Helicopters. And I don't know a whole lot about this ride. However, but I know parents can ride with kids on it. I think they want parents in the back seat on this ride. And as you can tell, the doors to get in the ride are like super narrow. So that can cause some issues if you're trying to get in the ride. And if you're tall, I feel like I could see you hitting your head. I'm not sure how wide the seats are on this ride though. So it's just something you'd have to see when you got there. This is Flynn's Fire Brigade, another ride that you can ride with your kids. Adults have to stand up here in the back. But as long as you can fit in the back and stand up okay, you should be okay to go. It seems like it's more the more accommodating rides to ride with your kid. This is called Crazy Trolley, which is another ride to ride with your kids or with the family. And this gate is, again, to get in the seat is pretty narrow. But it's doable. But once you're in the seat, I think it's pretty roomy and accommodating. It's just kind of getting through that little thin, narrow metal gate. This is Dizzi Dynamo. Don't know a whole lot about this ride simply because I don't tend to venture in the kids area that much, but some of the kids rides I know more about than others. I don't have kids. Don't really have a reason to go in the kids area at Kennywood, but I've walked through it, check it out, and look around and stuff. This ride looks like it could be a tight squeeze. I'm not 100% sure without trying the ride first. Well, it looks like unless your kid is pretty small, it may be squishy. It may be squishy. Regardless, this definitely looks like a ride that's smaller and more meant for kids. This ride is called Pounce Bounce. Adults can ride. However, this is a really smushy ride. If you have big hips, thighs, pretty much bigger anything, it's going to be difficult. It's tight. It's not very accommodating at all if you are a bigger person. But you're definitely on the smaller end of bigger. You can try it, but it's going to be kind of tight. This is definitely one that personally I would just let the kids ride and watch. This is the SS Kinney. This ride's actually pretty accommodating. Again, there is some really small, kind of tight metal gates, but if you can squeeze through them once you're on the ride, it's fine. It's just the metal gates are pretty narrow. This is Turtle Chase, which is quite similar to the full-size turtle they have there at Kennywood, which if your kids are large enough, I would try the full-size turtle. I feel like you could fit in Turtle Chase as a bigger person probably, but it's not going to be very comfortable or as roomy as the full-size turtle would be. The very last ride at Kennywood I'm going to talk about, this is called Diesel Drivers, or I think it's also called Diesel Derby at Kennywood as well. With this ride, you can ride with your kids. Adult must ride in the back. I'm not 100% certain if there's a seatbelt, but usually in my experience, the seatbelts are pretty long. It looks like it'd be pretty accommodating for bigger riders, because there's not a short seatbelt, which I don't think there would be. I'm going to go ahead and assume that you should be able to ride this ride in the back with your kids. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this Kennywood Park plus size rider's guide. I hope you found this useful. That hopefully it did help ease some of your fears if you're planning on a trip to Kennywood. Again, I know as a plus size rider, theme parks can be intimidating, feeling like you're going to be embarrassed and not be able to ride rides. But I say go, have fun. There's always going to be something you can ride there and something you can have fun on. Kennywood, in my opinion, is one of the better parks for plus size riders. There's a lot that can be done if you're a bigger rider. As a bigger rider, I do like this park. I feel a lot less stress and anxiety from visiting this park versus some of the other parks. The rides, most of them, they're a lot more accommodating. Weight limits, not really strict here on that. Whereas a lot of parks, it's like weight limit, weight limit, weight limit. And it's not really like that here, which I really like. So yeah, I definitely hope that you enjoyed this video and that this video was helpful to you. And if it was, give me a thumbs up and definitely make sure to subscribe to my channel. I have other videos I've done to help plus size riders on various parks such as Kings Island, Cedar Point, and Holiday World. And there's others on the channel too, and I'm just continuously adding the channels. As long as people like these type of videos, I'll continue to make them. So again, I hope if you were planning a trip to Kennywood, you definitely go, have fun, and enjoy. And thanks so much for watching.